Hello, my friends. I'm Rick. This is your seat at the table. I got Gray and White Mama sitting right next to me, and apparently I got a little bit of that's the downside of these glossy cover books. The overhead light, it just reflects off of it. So, Mordekaine's Tomb of Foes. This is for 5th edition, obviously. And I want to say a year and a half ago, I ran into this at JCD and Hobby on their discount shelf. They had it listed for $24.99. May have been last. Yeah, it's hard. I can't remember when the hell I got it. It wasn't within the last year and a half. The original price of this thing is $49.95 new. So I mean, I got it for half price. This was the reason I grabbed it was, well, for starters, it was half price, but it also gave some great insights into a couple of ages-long conflicts. That's kind of a traditional meme for role-playing games, or for D&D and games similar to it. Uh, so in And of course, the bulk of it is it's just yet another monster manual because it's full of a lot of critters and nasties and things like this. And some of them are from regurgitated from earlier versions and earlier monster manuals. But there's quite a few new stuff in here as well. I'm not savvy enough to be able to point out which one is what off the top of my head, but So when I looked at it, one of the interesting things was it covers chapter one is the blood war. This is the endless conflict between the demons and devils, and then chapter two is elves, and elves have got one of the oldest conflict stories of the humanish races. And within them, this is one of the reasons why there's such a variety of elven subtypes, in part. And the history of the Drow elves go all the way back to when they separated or were banished from the surface, and their association with the god Coriolan. And may not be pronouncing his name correctly. Anyway, it goes into pretty good detail, and it does rehash stuff that's been in many other earlier sources, but that just goes par for pair. But it does a good job of bringing it together in a concise and in detailed enough chapter that you can get lots of use out of it. This takes us to chapter 3 and the war between the dwarves and the duergar. And it's a similar story, similar scenario plays out. So there's a lot more in common between the dwarven conflict within itself as the elven conflict within it and their self. And then we have chapter 4, the Gith and their endless war against the mind flayers. And then chapter 5 covers halflings and gnomes. Of the goodly races, these two are the ones that do not have some history spanning conflict within its own racial members. Go figure. And then of course the bestiary, which is the bulk of the book. So, or better part of, well, maybe not the bulk. It's about 130 pages of a 250 odd page book. Is what it is. So we get into things like why the demons and the devils are constantly in combat or conflict. That's another thing to take into account when we talk about D&D. At least I was thinking about this yesterday at work, and it kind of popped itself off. The idea that bulk factions. So what I mean by that is you have an undead faction. If you look at the monster manuals as a whole, and you were to divide them into factions or categories, you would find that there's a significant portion of, there's the dragon faction or the dragon category, where it's dragon and dragon related stuff. The demons and the devils parallel each other in a lot of ways, but they're so prevalent. There's such a large percentage of possible encounters, especially at the mid to higher levels. Then there's the like I said, the undead and the humanoid faction and things like that. I kind of get where I'm going with that. So this gets a little more depth into you know the wheels inside of wheels and what's going on behind the scenes, and why this you know forever war is waged, and that how some of the goodly powers that be actually meddle with that conflict to keep it going to their own benefit. Chapter 2, like I said, 12's or elves, a race divided, explains how the original elves were all one unit, one race and one people under their god, and then talking about the elder elves. It also does a good job of talking about the end stages of an elvish lifespan. In Lord of the Rings, J.R.R. Tolkien waffled back and forth between whether the true immortality or if they have a lifespan, and they do age in relation to being in Middle Earth itself, being on the mortal plane. If you look at Círdan, for example, he's one of the oldest elves in Middle Earth. He's one of the last elves to pack up and leave, and his story has been continuous for the better part of 5,000 years. He was from the first age and left at the end of the third age or the beginning of the fourth age, and he was so old and so wizened. He actually was one of the few elvish lords to sport a beard, as an example. So this gives us a little more deeper dive into that if that's the thing you want to know about. General life and expectations for elves. And there's a lot of source books that cover stuff like that, but there's some material in here that I did not come across in other earlier versions of the elvish history. And talk about the Eldrin and the Feywild, some various sub factions, right, within this. We get into the section on drows and elf sub races, and some sea elves, Shatter Kai, Eldrin, a few others. And then we get chapter 3, the dwarves and duergar, the deep roots of the war. Well, I always like these because it really gives you each image, each picture, each story just makes that environment so much richer. I have ran at least 3 campaigns that were solely based on dwarven, members. Every member of the party was dwarves, and it's a very doable, playable race. And the duergar, as an early bad guy, they were underutilized and I think underrepresented. But over the decades, this has changed, and the duergar have become much deeper, much richer, much more nasty than what the original entries were for the first edition. I want to say it was first edition Monster Manual where they prop up, but I'd have to Google that to be 100, to be sure of that. So hey, if you know, by all means, put it on there. Then we get the Gith and their endless war. That in and of itself, the Githyanki are nothing to sneeze at. I mean, they make a great foe, a great faction to use as a foil against your player characters, if you want to run that kind of campaign. Uh, is what it is. Then we get into that chapter 5, halflings and gnomes, talking about how, somehow or another they've managed to avoid having, eons ranging conflicts with other people, let alone they're in their own ranks. You know, it's just like the gnomes. Oh, the gnomes! I've had so much frustration with gnomes and gnomish characters in my lifetime. It just boggles my brain. I think I won't bother getting into the nitty gritty on that stuff. But then, like I said, we get from there we get into but basically the bulk of the last 40% or 60% of the book is a bestiary or monster manual. Let's see, Aleps. I've typed these once or twice. Never did the Astrial. I never did that one either. Bone claws I use quite a bit for foes and for connections. And if you want something to really, really mess with the PCs, you get one of these things that keep regenerating coming after you. Yeah. Yeah, it makes you have to hunt them down. The cadaver collector, that one was always a little too weird for me. Choker, I don't think I ever had a use for that one. Clockworks, I have used Clockworks numerous. My current D&D Beyond play-by-post game The setting would include things like clockworks, corpse fire, not no, deathlock, no, demons, demons and devils. I have tapped them numerous times. Right, dark guardians, Rudderkin, some pretty weird stuff here. Some of these things just a little too weird. I mean, it really is. And I wonder, does an artist submit an exotic creature, and then the powers that be decide, oh, that's a good one. Let's make up something to go around the picture. Half the time I wonder about that. Demogorgon's lair, Demogorgon. Yeah, some nasty boogers here. Gerbillex, Orcus. All right. Darrow. I've used Darrow before in some underground Underdark adventures. Devils, of course, or Bluish, Erishai, Abishi. I've used these fellows more than a few times as a good foe faction. Hellfire Engine, right? Archdevils. Yes, Mama, you're fine. Right? Yes. Newton, Drow Matron Mother, Duergar Screamer, Duergar Soulblade, Edelons. That's the bugger from the original Advanced Dungeons and Dragons monster or GM guy or yeah GM guy's cover, crying the gemstone out of his eye socket. All right, elemental Myrmidons. I can't pronounce the gifts. I like gifts. I've tapped them a few times. They make for interesting faction. Get the Yankees. Gray renders. Right. Marut. Kind of like a play on the damn Warforged. Kind of mechanical automaton of some nature. Nightwalker. I think I tapped a Nightwalker once, and I discovered to my shame that it was far more potent than the party was, and the party didn't stand a chance against it. And it was an unintentional PP kill for the whole damn party. We had to reboot the game from before that point because I'm like, no, I should have not have put this. You guys should have ran away from this thing. This thing was not something you really should have decided you wanted to do. And we got a slew of ogre, variety of ogre additions: ogre battering ram, ogre bolt launcher, ogre chain brute, ogre howdah, right? The retriever, shatter kai, soulmonger. When the Shade arc came out, the Shadow Realm and things like that started to become popular for D&D's Forgotten Realms setting. I was kind of phasing out of D&D at the time, and so I never really played around much with it, or any of the characters of the critters and other things that are kind of associated with it, which was it just is what it is. So you don't get into all of them. Star elves, star spawn mangler, star spawn seer, cedars, steel predator, sword wraith, stone cursed, turtles. I've always kind of wondered about the turtle. I just have. It's an interesting concept. Venom trolls, as if trolls weren't bad enough by themselves. Vampiric mist. All right. So if you don't have it and you can get it, it's not bad to have it. It's not bad to have if you're really into planar conflicts and things like that. Or your elves, dwarves. It's a good addition. Anyway, there you have it. Tome of Foes. What do you think, Mama? You don't care? I get you. Anyway, it is coming up on the end of August. August almost over. Less than a week left. I think Friday's the end of the week. Friday, Saturday, Saturday's the end of the week, or is it Sunday? I don't know. I know that next week, from the 1st through the 7th, I'm working 7 days, probably 2 weeks straight. There's one last big summer event hurrah at the Boone Speedway in Boone, Iowa, that lasts a week, and they want me to run the big truck up there every day so the small trucks can pump off into it, and I'm good with that. Right? Anyway, till next time, y'all have yourself.